Hi guys, I'm Mark McKillier with Live Anabolic, and today I want to talk to you about range of motion and how I think it's more important than the amount of weight you're lifting, especially for us older guys, anybody over 40, I would say. Um, and I've, you know, learned this over the decades, but I've always just assumed it was a fact. So before I shot this video today, I spent hours researching it, and I was really surprised at how little research there is out there, how few studies, real scientific studies. Um, it's kind of bro science, if you ask me. And so I was surprised that it didn't make as big a difference as I thought it was. All right. So I'm kind of getting to the punchline at the beginning of the video. So, when we're talking about range of motion, we're talking about how much do you extend and contract a muscle during a specific exercise. And of course, range of motion is going to be completely different for every exercise and every muscle group. Okay. And we're going to get into some of the specifics later that I think will be really helpful because I will talk to you about individual exercises and I'll show you some B-roll, some video of me performing those exercises and explaining what I think you need to be doing when it comes to full range of motion. Um, One of the studies that I found was by the National Institute of Health, okay, NIH. And it was back in 2020. And it wasn't a study in and of itself. It was a conglomeration of other peer-reviewed studies that they found, okay? And so they found six other studies that met their criteria for range of motion. And they kind of synthesized the results from those six studies. And I was really surprised. It's amazing how little research is going on, especially with the billions and billions of dollars our federal government wastes on all kinds of stupid research. I mean, like, sex with cockroaches and jumbo shrimp running on treadmills underwater. I mean, just the stupidest stuff. This is a legitimate way to spend some money is studying these kind of things. All right, so there was only six studies, and the total number of participants in all six studies, 135 people. It's not a very big sample size, if you ask me. All right, so let's start with the two studies that just looked at upper body, and they really only looked at biceps. Okay, so they had two different groups doing curls, and they measured their bicep size or cross-sectional area at the beginning of the study and then 11 weeks later. Both groups did it for 11 weeks. Well, both studies did full range of motion versus partial range of motion. And the first study said, there's a slight difference. The full range of motion is better than the partial range. And then, of course, the second study, which did it the same way, they found basically no difference. All right. So that's why I'm saying there was no strong evidence for full range of motion. But when you're doing a full range of motion, that's when you're lowering the dumbbell all the way to your side and your arms fully extended, your elbows locked out, and then you bring the dumbbell, all the way to the maximum contracted position. And then, of course, they had half of the participants start with the dumbbell at basically, a 90-degree angle and then just bring it all the way to the top of the movement. So the top 50% of the movement versus 100% of the range of the movement. So that's how both studies were done. And I was really surprised that there was very little positive difference in the first study and no difference in the second study. The full range of motion really just wasn't a big winner. Problem with pushing that concept is that I'm afraid too many people will start cheating. All right. They will confuse partial range of motion with swinging and using momentum. All right. To get the dumbbells up. Those are two different concepts. All right. So controlling the weight, not using momentum through full range of motion or partial range of motion are nearly identical when it comes to building muscle. But when it comes to cheating and using bad form and swaying and swinging the weights around, there is a big difference, all right? Because you're using momentum and not the contraction of your muscle fibers to build the muscle. All right, now let's move on to lower body. And basically, they were measuring your thigh or your quadricep thickness, a cross sectional area. And they were having groups do squats because the squat is kind of the king of lower body exercises. And, you know, one, one way to do the squat the way I prefer and recommend is the full range of motion, of course. And what does full range of motion really mean? All right. Everybody knows, you standing straight up, that's the beginning of the movement, but how deep do you have to go for it to be considered full range? All right. Well, I think when your thighs get to parallel with the ground, that is full range of motion. You can go deeper. Some guys have got plenty of flexibility in their knees and their ankles and their lower back, and they can really get down there. I can still get pretty low. Some of these young guys, bodybuilders, are talking about ass to the grass. That's the only way you got to do it. All right. The science says going ass to the grass doesn't help. The science and the studies that I were reading say once you get your thighs, your upper leg parallel to the ground, going any deeper with your butt is just diminishing return on your effort. Okay, so continuing with basically the results that I saw in this study, for some reason, and they don't explain why, they actually don't know why, going full range of motion is more beneficial on your lower body and more specifically with compound movements when you're using big muscle groups and multiple joints. And that does kind of make sense to me that, if you're only doing little baby squats and you're only hitting the top, 30% of the exercise, you're not really engaging that many muscles. You're not really getting your glutes involved at all at the upper portion of the movement. And you're not getting your hamstrings involved and really just not much quadriceps either. So when it comes to doing squats, guys, I highly recommend full range of motion, but that's different for everybody watching. Some guys have got knees that are so bad, you just can't go all the way down. All right. You can't go to where your thighs are parallel with the ground. So you all are going to benefit from doing partial squats. Now, remember, guys, the study doesn't say that partial range of motion was not effective at all. Okay. The study says that full range of motion is just better than partial range of motion. And it doesn't even, it quantifies it to a degree, but not enough that I can actually explain it and that would make any significant difference to you. All right, now let's move on to another study. This is a little bit newer. This is from 2023, and this is from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. Now, this only focused on calves, all right? And it had 3 different groups of people. It had people that did full range of motion, so, all the way down to all the way up on your toes. It had partial range of motion where they were only doing the upper 50% of the calf raise. So, you're all the way up on your tippy toes and you only go about halfway down and then back up to your tippy toes again, all right? And then we had the lower range of motion group. So they were going where their toes or their heels were all the way down and their calves were fully stretched, and then they only came up to about halfway, okay? They didn't go all the way up onto their tippy toes. So those are the 3 groups. Well, guess what? This is more interesting. The group that did the fully stretched position with their heels all the way down and only came up halfway, they got the best results. They even beat out the full range of motion guys. And then the group that did just the upper 50%, okay, of the calf raise, they got almost basically no results at all. All right, so this is kind of an interesting study, I think, because first of all, it's very hard to grow your calves. I think a lot of it is genetic. You'll see people with really big calves and they've never even done a calf raise in their entire life. So guys, if you're going to try to grow your calves, just do the bottom 50% range of motion because the other 2 methods apparently don't do anything for you. All right, well, in wrapping up, I just want to touch on one last muscle group / set of exercises when it comes to range of motion. And that is when you're working your shoulders. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of older guys, I'm 63, have got terrible range of motion ability when it comes to their shoulders. Your shoulder is the most flexible joint in your entire body, but that also makes it the weakest joint in your body. And most of you guys know, because you can't lift your hands, over your head, without pain. So, what I want you guys to do is realize that you could do partial range of motion when you're working your shoulders and still get good results. And one of the best exercises I think for that is doing lateral dumbbell raises. And the reason is because everybody can hold a dumbbell down by their side, and all you got to do is bring it up this high. All right. Most men can do that. Now, you're not going to be able to use hardly any weight. I'm talking maybe 5 to 10 pounds for most guys. And that's fine. You do it slow with good form. Your shoulder is going to burn. You're going to feel the muscle and the lactic acid building up in your lateral delts. And then when it comes to overhead shoulder presses, just listen to your body, guys. Use a light weight and go slow. Maybe you can do partial range of motion here, okay? And the deal is, you do that for a few months, you very well might increase your range of motion and strengthen your shoulder at the same time. I've had a lot of guys tell me after doing shoulder exercises for 3 to 6 months that their arthritis got significantly better, and they were able to basically go all the way up and all the way down. So range of motion at the end of everything here is not as important as I thought it was. I thought it was, absolute critical. And it turns out that in most exercises, it is helpful for building muscle when you can do a full range of motion, but it's not a huge difference. I mean, we're not talking about 3x difference. We're talking about maybe 20% difference, okay? And even then, it varies from muscle group and whether it's upper body or lower body. So, all right, so wrap it up, guys. The title of today's video was Why Range of Motion Matters More Than Weight, especially as we get older. And it turns out that the range of motion itself doesn't really matter more than the weight. It's the form that matters more than the amount of weight you're lifting. All right, well, who cares? Range of motion, weight, form, none of it matters if you don't stick with it and never give up on yourself.